Alrighty. Um, I guess it's time to get started. Ooh, kind of, kind of scary, guys. Going live, honestly, every single time. Uh, just because one, how important this stuff is, and I don't want to say things wrong, but you know, just anything can happen going live. But hello, welcome to the Sonrisa Podcast. My name is Nick. If it's the first time you're seeing me or hearing me live, um, I'm just again a background. I'm a Latin dancer who's primarily danced in the Southern California area, and while I've done some dancing around the world, this is mostly the experiences that I know of is in the local community here in Southern California. And I've been dancing for about the last 17-ish years, I believe now. I started in 2007 when I was a teenager, and getting to where I am now with dance, and not knowing, some of the terrible things that are coming to light now, I I felt that it was appropriate to discuss that like some of the things that are happening in our dance scene or have been happening in the dance scene, because some of these stories that are being shared are not old. They're not new. Some of them are pretty old, and they're only just now coming to light. And it involves people who are still active in the community, or some of them going on their way out. But again, just wanted to address some of the things that I've been seeing and some of the conversations that are being had. But again, I also didn't want to just share my opinions and stuff for anyone who's watching um, now or maybe a little bit in the future. Even still today on Sunday, April 13th, I did put an option that you should be able to rewind the video at any point if you want to go back to the start of this video, um, like later on, but or just skim through wherever we are as far as live. And then I'll keep this video up so that way you can come and view this if it's not during the live time when I'm live here. But yeah, again, just aside from just sharing my thoughts and stuff, I wanted to have a conversation with any of you live or after this goes live in the comments and stuff. But there will be a chat here that I'll keep an eye on as far as while I'm discussing everything that's been happening. But I wanted to start off first going through the timeline of what has happened and all the major stories, at least that led up to some of the posts that are being shared now. So it started off, at least from what I can tell, from this very useful post that I'll be sharing with my screen here now. Um, this post made by the Queen Chata. It looks like they did a decent job of kind of summarizing the events that happened to all of these stories being shared. And I think it's important for us to stay informed, and I just also want us to all be working from the same point of reference as far as information. So the very first thing here was her sharing about what started all of this in the first place, and there was a dancer who came forward of her story of grooming, coercion, and long-term abuse by Jose Serrano, the founder of Evolucion Latina. Um, and she had her post actually shared in full here, as far as how she got encouraged by somebody who she looked up to, and the fact that she loved dance like so much and wanted to uh, you know pursue that fully, but unfortunately it looks like she was pushed up to um, a higher level of status in the dance company, purely for the point of grooming her and making her the I guess the prey for this Jose director for this company, and unfortunately, it just led into a lot of abuse, and it wasn't until more recently that I guess you decided to share about this, because this is something that happened a little while ago. Um, and I'll even link to this here if I can, um, in the chat, in case anyone just wants to read this. Uh, the, the link will be in the live chat, um, as I'm discussing this. So if you open up the live chat, you should be able to see this link there. And again, feel free to put any questions for anyone who's watching. If you have any insight or comments or questions, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. But yeah, there's the link to the full post of this, and actually, in fact, I'll put this whole one as well, where they're discussing uh, the main post. I'll also put a link to that in the live chat as well. But yeah, so it stemmed from this initial post of someone who is a professional dancer who was abused by somebody also at a high level of dance, in a team, and a partner, and that led to more stories coming out. And so that's what started this whole push for survivors of abuse, assault, um, uh, to come forward with their stories of what happened, and then even some of the ways that some of their stories were ignored or not pursued, or no legal action, or the people who are still involved in the scene are still participating, and um, are still still prominent figures in the dance scene. And so that's what led into um, uh, the next big story was directing Island Touch, the main people involved in Island Touch, which is Ataca, Alemana, and El Tigre. And actually, in the same day, it looks like there's another big um, dancer known in the dancing called Carol Flores, who also came out with some of her stories and the people in the scene and stuff. So when it comes to uh, yes, this one for Island Touch, she explains her story that started from back even in 2013, which was 12 years ago. So again, this is stuff that's been happening in the background all this time, and she shares her stories of kind of being pushed to do sexual things, or being put in an uncomfortable sexual position by El Tigre, Rudy, and basically kind of being brushed aside by both Atakan Alamale, George, and Tanya, I believe is how you pronounce it. Uh, but Yeah, and it just like you can see these people who are high in power and or high positions of authority, and are doing, you know, you can't. Who do you go to when the people at the very top are the ones who are either abusing you and uh, or and the ones who are ignoring you for advances that are happening with somebody else. And so that was her story, and then along with that, Cara Flores, yes, was mentioning more about coming forward with a lot of this stuff, um, because sadly, like we all know, these kinds of things are happening in the background, even if we don't know the full context of the story. It's like I think I've had way too many conversations with people that even if they don't know the exact things that are happening out there, that we're not surprised, and that's like kind of a sad reality that we know that this is kind of behavior that is unspoken, just because so many people feel so dejected that nothing can get done, or there's no real impact that we can do. Um, and unfortunately, it's this post even kind of goes into the fact that yeah, like some people, even when they come forward, it get kind of ignored for the things that they went through, or no real action goes through with it. But um, and we don't really have a system for holding these kind of people accountable. Um, and so, yeah, after that, some organizations now, because of how loud the attention was finally being brought up to this, because again, some of these people are um, higher status, and luckily it reached enough voices to permeate through the dance community. And finally, some communities at least started taking some action by finally distancing themselves from uh, some of these people who are been um, alleged to do all these things. Uh, and again, rightfully so. I don't have the evidence to say what exactly happened, because again, these are people sharing the stories, and we should be inclined to believe these stories, because especially when there's multiple people coming out and kind of reaffirming some of the behaviors that they have. Um, and you can tell just from even some of their reactions that what they're saying is truth, because they're they're either they're dismissing it or outright getting defensive about the things, and not really addressing how to prevent these kinds of things. They're kind of just sugarcoating around some of these things, and from there, um, there was some discussion at an event as far as like artists speaking out about um, the topic of harassment and abuse, but unfortunately, it looks like it wasn't brought up soon enough. And even Alemana, who's one of the people who was part of one of the big stories, wasn't really um, didn't say anything regarding that specific topic, when again, she's somebody who's in the middle of all this. And then the thing really blew up when Ataka and Alemana kind of posted a video that seemed to, like the post states, that to avoid accountability. And yeah, I've listened to the post. At the end, it sounds almost threatening people who are coming forward with their stories. Um, and I mean, with some of the things I've been seeing, that's not even even if there's some things that are potentially incorrect, that the way they worded it and everything was in poor taste. And I think they also had the bad timing of, on that same day, it looks like Ataka on his story. I didn't see this. I know I had a friend tried sharing it with me, but I didn't get to see it in time before it was taken down. Apparently, he posted a provocative, inappropriate photo of himself, um, mostly without clothes, or I don't know how much. I haven't I didn't want to look up the photo itself, but it definitely looks like some people did. And it was a mirror selfie, and apparently you could see his room number in the background. So there are some questions about who was this for and why was it posted. Apparently, I saw some comments that he had mentioned that it was meant to only be shared to a close friends group, uh, on Instagram stories, their close friends list. But even that is kind of like, what purpose would that be for? And I mean, people are entitled to have whatever, you know, sexual, uh, consensual things. But again, with hearing some of these stories from these like higher, uh, you know, people and organizations, that it can, I don't know, it doesn't feel right, and it could be like an invitation for abuse of power, for somebody inviting people who may want to do something just because he's a big artist and stuff. I don't that gets a little murky when it comes to those kinds of things. So I understand why people were kind of upset about it. But then obviously this generated the viral memes and everything that honestly brought this to so many people's attention, and rightfully so. Like it regardless that it was just a stupid meme and it's made more of a joke. It's made people look into more of like well, why does this meme exist, and introduced a lot more people to these this thing that's clearly happening. And even as it's exploded because of the meme and everything, it's so strange to see that not a lot of people are really um, what do you call it? Or like some of the big people that I still see in the dance scene now, it's so strange to see how quiet they've been and not participated in, um, sharing some of the stuff that's happening, and kind of still continuing to act like nothing's happening. Um, uh, when it's involving some of the people that are at these events that they are going to, and you know they themselves could be at some kind of risk. And it's good to be informed about these things, and that's the reason why I'm sharing them myself. And so yeah. So then from there, it looks like on March 30th at the Geneva Festival, it looks like a judge was injured due to some dangerous leading, or what some people were considering a dangerous lead. And so this also like sparked not just like general abuse and stuff, but also just some of the way people are dancing aggressively and forcefully. And I mean, I see videos all the time online on social media of people making fun of these like ridiculous ways that people are leading. But not only can it be inappropriate, it can also be very, very dangerous. And seeing things like lifts and tricks on the social dance floor, like those are movements that are meant for performances, and they have their time and place. But in a crowded dance floor, it is not the time to show off and do these big movements, especially when you don't have the room to do them. First and foremost, you might hurt the people around you, but then also you might hurt each other, the people who you're dancing with, and yourself for doing something that, it's a high risk. It's a reason why it should stay on a higher level dance performance stage rather than the social dancing, because of the inherent risk involved. And you don't want to introduce that in the middle of a bunch of people who are also there trying to have a fun and safe time. And so uh, uh, then I guess, oh yes, I did see this post with the Chicago Salsa Bachata Festival was officially being postponed, being that Ataca Alemana and Tigre are the event's organizing team. So after all the allegations and everything that have been coming up, of course they'd want to take action. But again, it was only postponed to later in the year. Um, and they said that they're going to be removing some people from uh, their event and their lineup well, they're going to be reviewing who they need to take down. But I think the fact that they're also themselves, including Tigre, one of the people who's alleged to this misconduct and situations that I don't know if it's if we want to even support an event like this anymore, when um, even they are passive for this kind of behavior happening, and even potentially being the perpetrators of doing it in the first place. Um, and then, oh yes, not just Chisme, was it this one? There was another post where somebody was sharing more stories. Oh, I may not have the link for that open, but there is a not just Chisme account that also shared a lot more stories, and uh, gossip. There was, and then there's some other stories that are being shared. More testimonials of this behavior happening more and more. And I mean, one of them even hitting close to home was for those of us who dance here in the Latin dance scene. There was the story given by Marisol Galeano. Sorry for being a little slow with the pronunciation of your name. But yes, she shared her unfortunate story of being assaulted by Dimitro, but everyone knows him as DJ So Nasty. And this is something that happened when she was assaulted when she was uh, young and new to the team, and was under the influence of alcohol when and she knew that she didn't want to be in that situation, and he assaulted her. And not only that, but also kept this kind of behavior continuing while they were both together on the Querico team. And uh, even after suffering all this and having years of people who uh, uh, just continued to like being in a dark place, and nobody believing her at the time, or at least she had some close friends who kept her safe, but people like Aubrey who were dismissive. And it goes into a very complicated situation of just people taking advantage of her. And this full post I'll also share as well. But it was really sad to see all these names that are local, and even a place that we all go to, and even I go to so regularly. And oh, I was supported Dimitro, knowing that this is something that happened to her. I'm very very sorry that you had to go through all that and quietly live through all that. And then even I'm surprised at the bravery you had to even at the end of this story, mentioning how she did try to forgive and get past this horrible situation, which can't imagine even wanting to go through that. And I know she did, because I, not knowing that this had all happened, I know I'd run into her at Stevens sometime, post 2020, post the quarantines. And now knowing this, now I'm very surprised that she really did genuinely try to like forgive and even show up at Stevens again. And that's amazing to her. She's a wonderful person. And she has her own podcast as well. That's Yo Soy Cultura. And again, it's also here is the Instagram account. So I definitely recommend following her and listening to her stories and the things she has to share, because clearly she's been through a lot. And um, she's an important voice to listen to. Uh, but yeah, it's made me rethink about the places after hearing the story of like the places I want to support, or um, you know, what can I do in the dance scene? Because I feel like sharing all these stories only does so much, because even after knowing it, people just continue to ignore and just keep behaving like nothing happened. And just reminded me of a very similar situation of Giselle, who had shared her story of domestic violence in her personal relationship with another partner, with a partner who was also a dancer. And showing all this evidence of emotional and physical abuse and bruises and everything that happened to her by her partner Andy at the time. And even then, after everything that had happened, and even this story getting a lot of attention, it um, I, I I still saw a lot of places that were still like celebrating Andy and introducing him and welcoming him after all of this had come out, um, and kind of ignoring this very real thing that happened, and also brought into question of like, you know are we okay with having certain people like this in our community? And while I think people hopefully can change, I it seems like a lot of people don't. And I that's the reason why I do like this kind of live streaming and chatting and things, because um, it unfortunately it feels like there isn't much we can do, and we feel so powerless as to what we can do. Why are we doing these things? And um, one of the best things that matter to a lot of these event coordinators is also just your attendance and your money. And so if you really care about not wanting to promote a certain person, just or people who are connected to these kind of situations, walk away. Like, just don't go and promote, and go to those events. If you really care about this kind of people, don't support the people who are just passive to this kinds of of things, or people question as to why I don't go to Suchata. You know, people involved can share their stories when they're ready for it. But long story short, as to why I don't go to places like that anymore. And not only that, I think the other big thing as far as we can do individuals, and this kind of can depend on uh, where you're at as far as like what part in the dance scene um, do you take. For those of us who are just dancers, we don't perform, we don't teach. We're just here to have fun and social dance. One of the big things we can advocate or for change is to be the change you want to see in others. And so, like, one of the things I'm choosing to do now, just because of uh, how bad these kinds of situations are, and most of them always involving taking advantage of people because of alcohol. I'm personally choosing to no longer drink alcohol at dancing events because I think it's become a problem that's leading to, you know, it's some way, shape, or form tends to be involved in a lot of these situations. And while drinking in moderation for celebrations and for fun is nice and all, at low doses, unfortunately, there's a high amount of drinking that's happening, and sometimes I hear uh, comments of like, you know, renting out venues and they're not making enough money in sales for alcohol because apparently like that's how they make a lot of their money. But and sometimes hearing that drinking is not an issue, but no, drinking is a big issue in the dance scene. A lot of people drink, and just because they're not drinking at the bars, that doesn't mean they're not drinking in their cars before they go into venues and stuff. And I was one of them who was always drinking and stuff like that. And I think if I want to promote this idea of like better behaviors in the dance scene, then I should be an example of that. To if I'm gonna talk the talk, I need to walk the walk. So I'm personally not gonna I'm gonna be choosing to step away from alcohol while I'm at dance events, and also in general just because like it's for my health, and I think it's just a good thing to promote. So that's something as an individual that I can take and do to promote in others by being the example and doing it myself. So that's something that I will be doing from here on forward, just because it being that person can hopefully influence those around you to make better choices. So there's stuff like that you can do, uh, choosing not to go to certain events, but also if you're somebody who has students because you're an instructor, or if you're somebody who's a director and leading people in a performance team, or you're somebody who's in a connected, close group of people that matter to you and are heavily invested in dancing. Um, like one, share these stories and be honest with these kinds of behaviors if you're seeing them in your close connections. If you're an instructor, remind students that they have agency, that they, if you're a safe space, remind them that they can come to you. Remind during classes that, the etiquette um, that should be, what I keep hearing from some people is like, oh, it should be obvious that you should be polite and kind. But unfortunately, it's not so common and obvious to some people. And I think it should do you a lot of good to incorporate that into your weekly classes or monthly classes or whatever you're doing, is to be that voice and to remind your students to be good people, and that they have a voice um, if anything happens to them, because sometimes it just feels like if if you're not connected in that way with your students, then who can they go to, and sometimes they feel very lost as to that. And then also, if you're like somebody who's in a performance team, just reminding yourself that you maybe you love this dance, but um, be careful with the idealization of dance itself and wanting to get to this high status, because you when you're pursuant to something so aggressively, you can unfortunately let a lot of things slide in that pursuit, um, like some of the stories we're mentioning, like the whole Alemana and Ataka, oh no, I'm sorry, the first story of the person who was basically groomed into this higher level position is because they were so focused on getting, becoming this high level dancer that they unfortunately let a lot of this stuff kind of slide, and and because of the love that they have. Oh, if I'm a little loud, I can lower that. But yeah, so I I think that um, uh, yeah, that just a reminder that just anytime you're very committed to anything, take some time uh, to remind yourself that um, there are some things that are not okay. Some people can be very really aggressive with you as far as like the way they instruct you in dance teams and everything. And so um, yeah, just like I've heard many stories of people who've been in competitive teams where yeah, I can feel very drill sergeant like talking to a drill sergeant, then that's their coach, and that's can it sounds like it's fairly normal, especially at a high competitive level. But there's still like there's it's to your own individual taste as to like what your threshold is as for what is abusive and what you're okay with. But it is important to take some time to reflect on that, and and if you're capable of and hopefully have a good enough relationship with your director and your teammates to maybe have an honest conversation if it feels like there's any at any moment it feels like you're being taken advantage or abused verbally. um, so just being aware that you are capable of speaking hopefully to your relationship, or maybe for all these situations, and if it's not the right choice to even stay. And so that's like the other big thing that I've been seeing and hearing a lot of, either people on their way out of the dancing because they don't feel safe anymore to be part of this space. And yes, I hear stories of like, no, don't leave and stuff like that. We can make a safe space, but if it genuinely feels like the best choice for your safety and for your well-being, physically, mentally, emotionally, to step away from this, I completely understand, and it is within your rights to go pursue something else differently. Because I feel like a lot of times when we get into dance, we can get a little tunnel vision into this hobby, which is it's a great hobby when you don't get involved in all the stuff that's been happening. But um, there are some times where maybe stepping away partially or completely is the best choice for you, and I completely understand that if that's the best decision for you. Like I had a recent friend who messaged me who told me that she only intended to take a small break away from the dance scene, but hasn't been back since she started that break, and it's felt very liberating to be away from dance now. And I get it. Like, hey, like being around some of this stuff and seeing it secondhand is is very hard to deal with, and so choosing to walk away is sometimes the best choice. And I think for somebody like me, I might be stepping away from it a bit more just because I feel like it has become my only hobby, and I kind of have some things I want to do again to fulfill my life. And also because I think naturally, from learning about all these stories and these things that are happening at places here, even locally, that I have frequented a lot over the years, and now choosing that I do not want to support these events, that I'll have less places to go and less desire to go out dancing. So I'll probably be picking up other hobbies that I've used to have in the past, or I have other aspirations that I want to do that I can invest that time into. And I encourage all of you to do the same. If some if dance just isn't as a big important thing for you to do, then yeah, please pursue other hobbies that make you feel not only fulfilled but also feel make you feel safer than everything that's been coming out here, because it's really terrible. So um uh as far as like instructors, I know my one of my good friends and roommate, Arthur, made a wonderful like three-part post regarding how you can introduce, uh, uh, the topic of, uh, you know, etiquette and safety, and all this stuff in your classes. And so, uh, um, Uh, so yeah, I wanted to share that as well. Actually, I don't have that one up, so let me see if I can get that up because he did a couple of posts because it was kind of a long discussion about this, but um, he did go into that because of all these conversations and everything that were happening. And so here I wanted to share. Let's see if I can share. Uh, Here we go, and maybe I can show a little preview off my screen. So it's this post that I'm talking about from, again, a good friend, Arthur. Um, and I will be posting a link to at least his part one regarding this. Uh, you know, Actually, here, let me see if I can maybe just uh, go to the post. There we go. Maybe this link will be better to share, I think. Um, oh, where did it go? I'm not sure. Uh, Goodness. Oh, okay. Yeah, I just went to scroll down. Sorry about that. So yeah, here. So for anyone who's an instructor, they can take a look at that. That he gives some good advice as far as how to incorporate some of these better lessons as an instructor into your classes. And I know he's started to do some of this in his classes and encouraging more of his students during class that safety is important, and not only to encourage that during class, but also inviting after after the class is done that they're welcome to talk to people like him and me. I happened to be present during one of the classes when he was first bringing this up and sharing that we're people who are very open to having conversations about what has been happening, and hearing maybe their situation and how we can hopefully encourage them to do more, and or whatever advice we can give in the situation. So yeah, so I definitely encourage all of you to, um, if you decide to want to continue dancing, just know that there are things you can do. Again, who you choose to support makes a big difference in this dancing, because unfortunately the biggest thing that moves attention is your attendance and your money to these events. And second best is obviously keeping conversation regarding everything that's been happening, as loud as you can to the people who are willing to listen, because unfortunately not everyone is ready to listen. And I think sometimes shouting from the rooftops is, it won't reach everyone, and it won't make the impact that you're hoping. But even changing one person's opinion or introducing one person to more information or more resources, it is very valuable. And it's one of the reasons why I decided to do this live stream, because even at the beginning, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to do anything about this, because I just felt so dejected, um, especially the after reading the Marisol's post, knowing how close to home and how much I supported a person that I knew none of this was happening. And so I decided that, at the moment being lost, I chose not to go out dancing that weekend as I processed everything that I was feeling and thinking. And um, I didn't want to completely walk away from everything, but I thought that, you know, uh, maybe I could say something, but I wasn't sure, which is why I posted on my story. And I had a lot of wonderful people, a lot of good friends messaging me saying that, encouraging me if I wanted to do something, to that, be the advocate and, do what I can, even if it changes only one person's uh, uh, behavior, or they know they can come to somebody for advice or support, that it is up to me to do it. Especially because I am an instructor, teaching Advocacy salsa, at least right now, even if it's just one class for 1 hour, that you know I can still do more to at, to go out of my way and remind my students that they they have a voice, and that I'm here to support them. And also just introducing this live stream for anybody who's willing to listen. And again, for those of you who are here and listening, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I hope that I encourage even one of you to, if you're still like somebody very, very close to anybody who's in the dance scene, in your local dance scene, whether it's close or far, that um, to do what you can and know that your voice matters, and to go forward with that. So yeah, um, I'm hopeful that some of this information, if you didn't know some of the more details, at least you have some of the links to follow if you want to like have a deep dive into those individual situations, but also hopefully encourage you to know that you have more power, more agency to do more in this scene if you choose to stay, and if you choose to not. I hope you leave uh, with at least some good memories of some of the best, some fun things that you had in dance. But if leave it if it's the best choice for you. So I don't really have much more to present at the moment. So I don't know if there's anyone who had any questions or anything, because I do see a few people who are here live, but and I would like to answer any questions if you had them. But if you don't, I don't want to take up more of your time. I've already been streaming for almost an hour, but um, if there's anything you'd like to say, feel free to write it in the chat. But uh, but yeah, no, I I hope we can, for those of us who are staying, I hope we can make some kind of difference and not let this just die down again, and continue to support places that you know that continue to allow this kind of behavior. But yeah, um, I guess I'm just killing time. Like I said, so if you don't see me very much on the dance floor, I'm sorry, but there's just some places I just don't want to. I don't want to humor and support anymore if this kind of behavior continues. And hopefully, you'll find me with doing other hobbies and stuff like that. This channel itself might also turn into something different, just because I want to create more things for fun, like live streaming stuff. But yeah. So uh, if not, I don't seem to see anyone writing anything. So um, again, I appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening. Oh, actually, there was one other thing actually I did want to discuss. Um, there was a post that was made. Um, let me see if I can get this right. Um, oh, oh, perfect. Oh, wonderful. Oh, I forget there might be a delay in the stream. Oh, wonderful. Be the change you want to see. Thank you so much, Joshua. You have Instagram settings on show less. Oh, interesting. Okay. So somebody just did write in the comments that you might have to change for some of the stories and some of the comments that were made in the posts for sharing your own individual stories, that Instagram does have some safety settings that can hide some posts, because if it has some language that trigger certain things, it'll hide comments. So you might have to look into your settings and edit the show less sensitive items off. I believe I think the actual tab says hide sensitive topics or items. I might have to uncheck that, so that way you can, if you really care about reading those kinds of comments. So yes, that good note there. But yes, the other thing I wanted to talk about um, is this. So somebody made a post because there have been, as far as like situations of calling out people who have been alleged to do certain things, and some people being afraid of m- bringing attention and awareness to it because of certain legal actions. And even I myself have been sometimes a little afraid to say certain names and say certain things because of, um, I'm afraid if what if I get sued for some of the things I say. And unfortunately, the U.S. is the land of you can sue anybody as long as you have money for it. And unfortunately, that's the sad reality of that. But somebody here actually did make a post about general ideas as far as like or knowing your rights and the risks of being vocal about very specific people in very specific situations, and that you have more power, especially if you're the business itself who's afraid to speak out about certain things happening, as far as like assault and things like that, or not allowing or banning people from your events, and that you should be you have more power in you to do and share those kinds of things, and to keep your dancers safe at your venue if you're a promoter. So she made an entire document, which actually I also have open here, for studio owners to follow, about what they can do as far as legal risks, business impact, about and then what it means, in the business sense, as far as can you get sued, and of course, like I mentioned, yes, but you have every right to kick anyone out of any event as long as it's not because of any protected status, like you're not allowing somebody out of your venue because of their race or gender or anything like that. But if it's because you've gotten comments of them being inappropriate or a risk or something that's not a protected status, then you have every right as a business to or an event organizer, or somebody who's involved in the organization of an event, that you can ban people, and you're well within your rights. And even if you were to get sued, that you stand the ground because you're not doing it for um, some malicious reason, and again, something that's protected by the government, or by our rights that we have, by law. And so this is a really good document to go over as far as, um, both just like what kind of impact doing these kinds of things for, banning people and keeping them out of your events, because not only is it keeping the people at your venue safe, but it's also, um, it'll be good for your business if they know that your business is somewhere that keeps people safe. Because if we know that people, like, for example, if you know the story of of back in the day, there's a dancer, his name is Victor, but he always went by Slick Vic, who got banned because it took a lot of vocalizations to get him banned from some certain locations, after an incident happened at the Unified on Two Social, and it took them, uh, the attention that they got to finally, um, uh, 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 make a post and make it known that that he wasn't allowed to go to certain places. But still, even and he went away for a little bit, and I still see him from time to time at certain locations. I've heard that from organizations that there's nothing they can do to remove someone from an event when it comes to allegations. Well, yeah, it's so that in this place, in this document, they did mention about having difficulties about, if you did kick out somebody who's already at the event, then, um, like the biggest thing that you can get legally in trouble for is they paid for the service of being there. Um, uh, that and then kicking them out, like the thing you should do is refund their money, completely, so that way, like, again, you can as a business kick anybody out if they're being disruptive, or it's like going to a restaurant and you're being disruptive to the other customers that are there, like I've worked at a gas station before where we as a business had every right to kick somebody out because they were being loud uh, and disruptive to the people who were there, and um, I think just maybe in the power of like hopefully the venue has a security guard that can handle this kind of thing. But again, there are also protective rights. You can't like you have to be careful with um, physically removing somebody because there are some laws that protect that. I mean, verbally going up to somebody and asking them to leave, giving them their money is probably the best thing you can do without getting into any legal trouble as to like putting your hands on somebody. So that is a really good comment. But yeah, that is the best thing you can at least attempt to do in the moment of an allegation, like in that moment if they're at the venue. But definitely making it very, very aware to your staff, um, or whoever is letting people in. If there's somebody that you know is a problem and is a repeated customer, that they should be aware to not let them in the first place after that moment. But yes, definitely during the event itself, if they're already in the venue, that's where it gets a little trickier about getting them to leave because yeah, that there are some protections to people from being physically removed from somewhere or just like their physical well-being. So yeah, I did want to. Oh shoot, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to also share this document just in case anyone wants to go through it at all. But but yeah, so that is a good concern about like physically removing people. But yeah, as far as like the business and wanting to make sure, uh, you do encourage more people if you know that they'll have fun and be safe at the places that they go to, and also just building a good um, reputation as a good leader of like knowing that you don't want to and support these kinds of people being at your locations. And so this was a really good post. Oh yeah, having clear, explicit written instructions about conduct at your events. I know some places I've seen on social media, if they have a business, sometimes they have like a pin post on their socials that anyone can look at any time as far as the kinds of behaviors that are okay and what the expectations are if anyone breaks those kinds of things. I know they don't get read very very often, but also legally protecting yourself and knowing that you have a very clear set of rules and expectations that you have of your patrons. That is also very good to have, just for also legal standpoint. Um, uh, Being especially if you're a business or some kind of coordinator or organizer, just being committed to following through and helping out with any of these kinds of abuse that you see around you or around the people with your business or your team or what have you. Um, uh, Obviously knowing that obviously a lot of this behavior can happen like at certain events, but also some of these stories are just like things that are happening within individual people, and just knowing that there are some things you can do at the dance floor, but there's some things you can't, and because they're happening away from the dance floor, but still being aware and knowing what behaviors to look out for. So the more and more you get involved in and being informed, I think it does make it a little easier to see these kinds of dangerous behaviors and stuff. So it that's why this matters. So yeah, it's a really good document for following up with all this. So yeah, it's left there in the chat. So if you guys want to link through that, it's that Google Drive link that you can follow. If you want to go ahead and go through all this, definitely if you're a business person or teacher or something like that, it'd be good to go through that. Yeah, setting boundaries. Training staff, yeah, if sometimes the staff isn't at certain places. If you have people who are working at the event not knowing what to do because you've never gone over what to do in those situations, and it can be a big learning curve of how to handle a situation, um, as to the best of your ability. Um, like I know like even for us, when I was part of like Cal State Long Beach, and we eventually kind of like learned that some people who were coming to our Latin dance, Latin motion socials and stuff, sometimes we would have to personally remove people, and we kind of had to like work with each other on how to remove certain people. and we were all involved in kindly asking people to step outside the building, and then eventually telling them that they had to go home because of some behavior or something that we saw that was inappropriate. But yeah, sometimes it does take talking in advance about how to handle those kinds of situations, um, uh, and obviously how to follow through in those situations and stuff. So yeah, this is also another great document to go through for legal reasons and stuff. But and again, just like if the whole point of sharing this kind of information is not to uh, harm an individual, because that's where you can get into like problems with like defamation and things like that. That's not the point of, that shouldn't be the point of you sharing these kinds of things. And also for legal reasons, you shouldn't do that, or try to avoid the context of something in that framework, because of the better thing to do is always to present this kind of information as for what it is, and it's for wanting to keep the people around you safe. And so yeah, that's why I'll share what I can share from the people who I see around me that are problematic and things like that. And I'll call them out if I see it, and if it looks like venues are not being supportive of the people, and not listening to the complaints or the behaviors that their other, their patrons or the people who are going, the dancers that are there to have fun, if they're not listening to the complaints, then maybe it's time to call them out, and just just so people are aware that this is a place that does not take your comment seriously, and it's probably best to stop going to those events. But yeah, and again, I will choose to do those kinds of changes myself. Like I said, I'll try to be the change I want to be. So I'll keep voicing the things when I can. And again, like I mentioned, uh, uh, I'll do things like not drinking anymore while going out dancing, because I think that's a big problem. So yeah, that's good thing thank God I didn't forget about speaking about that document. So hopefully that's a great resource. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything else anyone wants to bring up. I know that was another big thing I wanted to discuss, but yeah, um, uh, yeah, wow, a whole hour of being here. But thank you so much for everyone who's been listening in. I don't think I have more now. Okay, this is the actual probably. I don't think I have anything prepped at the moment as far as like uh, sharing more with you all. Just again, hoping to encourage you all to, you know, do what you can, um, and make the best decisions for yourselves as much as possible for the dancing. And I hope you can continue to have fun for as much as you want to continue to be involved in all this. But yeah, um, as far as that, I might be wrapping up and ending the stream soon. So I'll probably wait around for a little bit in case anyone says any other comment or anything I can click on. But yeah, hopefully it's been good. Hopefully the stream hasn't been choppy at all, or everything's been good. I haven't heard any complaints that I was hopefully being too loud, or the audio was bad, or any of the video stuff or screen stuff that I was sharing was bad. But again, I was screen sharing just more for previews. But again, all the links to everything I had are in the chat, and maybe I can find a way to post all these links as well. Again, in the description after the live stream ends, so you can just click through that if you want to go through all that. But yeah, seriously, thank you so much, everyone who has been listening and watching. I hope all of you have a good rest of your day. And again, I hope maybe if you do still dance, I hope to see you on the dance floor. So uh, thank you very much. Yeah, okay. Well, I guess I'll be heading out. Thank you so much, guys. Bye bye.